Welcome back to another episode of Chew the Bean by Willie's Beans. I want to introduce Santiago Londono, and I have a gift for him today. This is his coffee. Santi.
Really? Oh my God, thank you so much.
From
Well,
the
Leopard
farm.
Caturra. I know this one.
Yeah, you know this one well.
This is mine, yeah. Great, thank you so much.
So we're gonna open it up because, as you know, we have the tradition of chew the bean.
Oh, really?
So what I want you to do is I want you to open it up, pick one of your beans. How does it smell?
Oh my God. Like heaven. It smells so good.
And then I'll take one.
Did you roast that yourself?
I roasted this myself on a 5 kilogram ProBat. I'm not gonna tell everyone the roast profile, but I'll tell you it later. What do you think?
I love it.
So that's 12 days since I roasted it. So
Okay.
that's a little gift for you. You can take home.
Thank you so much.
Give me some feedback and see if I'm doing justice to your coffee.
I will.
That's something that's beautiful about being back in Colombia. You know, in the last episode, I was speaking to Andres. He is a 3rd generation farmer, and now we're with Santi, the 4th generation farmer.
For
And I just want to have a little bit of an introduction of who you are and how you got into coffee and a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so I am Santiago Londono, as you know. I am 4th generation in my family in the coffee business. The Londono family, we've been established here in El Quindío and Valle del Cauca. My great-grandfather started the first crop like 1920, so it's been 104 years already. I started 20 years ago. I will be 20 years ago this year in the farm full-time. I did, like my major and my interest from the university was more into the sustainability part. I lived in the jungle, in the Amazonic jungle for 6 months, and then I got very interested in taking care of these beautiful planets. And then in the university, I started to study a lot about sustainability, about cleaner production. And when I started at the farm, that was my first approach, my first job. And the first approach was taking care of the soil and analyzing the microorganism, the balance of the microorganism in the soil, because before we didn't do that. Nobody do it. Even today, very few people do that kind of thing. Because you need to balance also in the soil, which is very interesting with the fermentation. You need to balance the yeast with the bacteria, with the fungus, all the interactions that are there, and that affects directly the crop.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I want to touch on a few things there. Obviously, you know, the relationship we have, I've heard your story and speaking with Andres, we touched on a few things about the farm, but I want to go a little bit deeper today on understanding your relationship. Like you said, you lived in the jungle. I mean, that's a crazy experience. What possessed you to do that? Because I think it has a big impact on how you make coffee now.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. That when I was living in the city in Bogota, studying there, and I had so many questions about life, you know, like transcendental questions about if this just a life. So I wanted to go to a very far away place in Colombia, because in that department, that state of Colombia, which is huge, is pure jungle, big rivers. The rivers are 3 kilometers wide, and there's just one town, just one town in that big. So I was very isolated. It was a small town, but it was, well, isolated. And then I connect with life again in there because of the river, the jungle is an energetic experience. And that later made me make the decision to go back to the farm and work with my father, which had been working there for 35 years back then. Mm-hmm. And then I say, okay, I want to come and work with you. He said, no, you cannot come and work with me. I said, yes, I want to come. He said, no. So I was insisting. And then one day he says, okay, you can come and work with me, but you know what? I said, what? I can punch you. So I said, okay, that's the deal. If I'm not knowing you, you can punch me.
Yeah.
And that was the deal. And then I started, and 20 years later, here I am.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The thing that I love about working with you, Santi, is we've spoke about it so many times in how all those little interactions have a link. A lot of people say coffee is just coffee, but when you're actually involved in the farm and you start to go deeper, it completely has blown my mind into all those little interactions. I mean, we were talking with Andres yesterday about the 40% of the farm is conservation and how that impacts coffee production and everything like that. What's your thought process when you're going to make a cup of coffee and then revert that back to the farm level? What do you actually want to showcase to people when they're drinking coffee?
Well, it has changed over time. When I started and I went to my first specialty coffee cupping session and course, like 15 or more years ago, it also blew my mind to see how coffee can share many flavors and many experiences. And then back then I focused on trying to create that again for other people. Like, I remember a lot like this dark fruit flavors or red intense fruit flavors. I tried in some African coffees back then. It was like very, very interesting. And then I started to try it in the farm, in the tanks. And then it was many hours, many months going to the tanks and try new things.
Trying to recreate
that without any success. It was completely disappointing for several years, at least three years doing fermentation. Nothing happened back then. It was like 2009 or even before that. There was no information, nothing. Like now you can find information, ferment like this, use the microorganism like this behave like. Back then it was nothing. It was just try and error, and then go and try something, and some people say, oh, do this, and then you go and nothing happened. Then later we managed to find these kind of results, very interesting results in flavor, so create a wide variety of coffees in the farms of the family, with the geishas also, and the genetics of the bourbons behaving very well. And then after that, like 2017, I started quite a different journey that I keep so far. That is kind of the thing that I like the most now, is the energetic connection and the thought process that altered the flavor and the behavior of the coffee. So that's something now is my main interest, because it's not only creating flavors of the beverage, but that beverage is somebody will drink it, and somebody will have an experience that have a lot of levels when that person drink that coffee. The flavor, but also the energy that it transfers. So I'm saying, and I think to myself, I don't know if I'm fooling myself or what, but that's my dream, and that's what that inspires me, is that the coffee is a messenger. So I transfer a message.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So when I'm at the farm and at the tank, I put to the coffee messages that I say, I love you, thank you, coffee. So I am like kind of transferring all that information to the coffee. So when the messenger goes to Australia and somebody drink it, can feel and say, I love you.
That warmth.
So that's what now inspires me the most.
That's super interesting, because there's certain things that I've seen on the farm where you use music and a lot of different things like that I'm like, wow, it really has an impact. The frequency of the vibrations of the music or things like that definitely is something you use in your process, and it has altered the final cup of coffee. But before I met you, I never thought that at the farm level you're thinking about, okay, when the person drinks this coffee, how do I want them to feel? And I think that's for me like something that I'm like, wow, this is such a beautiful product to be involved with. And it's really a testament to you, like thank you for that. When I drink my coffee, I feel loved, and that's because of you. And that comes to this coffee, because the Leopard Caturra for me is, a phenomenal coffee for everyday flat whites, but still espressos, long blacks. How were you able to make a single variety so versatile? Because everyone talks about, you know, you have your blend for milks, for espressos, but I mean, I'm biased, don't get me wrong, but I think this is just as good, if not better, than any other blend that you can find in Australia, that you'll find in a cafe. So talk to me about this coffee and why it has those characteristics.
Yeah, like 15 years ago when we started to try to design the cup, it was never in my mind to blend and to make using other coffees to create and build the flavors. It was more trying to understand the variety and then maybe what lacks or what I like about the variety. And sometimes what I see in this coffee personally, what I love is that this is a pure Colombian coffee and then the acidity shows up, right? So in the processes where we did before this, the acidity was very acetic. And it was like, I like it, but it's too much.
Too acid.
And it's an acid that is very acetic, so I would love to modulate that and transform it. And also, for me, the coffee has in the soul like the taste like of the mother, you know? It's like a taste of when you feel like you're young and your mother is taking care of you with such love, and it's like the same feeling in the coffee. So I wanted to include like a note that can transfer that.
Like a nurturing kind of.
Nurturing, and for me it's like a creamy note.
Yeah.
It's like a milky note. It's a milky note without milk, right? And also, so I said, can I do this without using other coffees to blend it and improve it or blah, 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 with this variety? And then started to try again. Now I had information, but it took me 3 years to develop this profile. And I use anaerobic procedures to create the lactic acid. So it changed from the acetic acidity to the lactic. And also that lactic, in a way, transforming the creamy note that I wanted to create. So at the end, for me, this coffee is so balanced and has the creamy note and has the lactic acid, the acid in the lactic way that it is very interesting, you know.
Yeah, I think I feel very fortunate to be able to serve this cup of coffee, and it's something that, you know, cafes in Australia can have. Just one coffee that is so versatile, and it is pure. How do you feel about the way coffee is right now, and what in your mind is a pure coffee, and what in your mind is coffee that is kind of steering away from that?
Well, now, mainly after all those efforts that we have developed for years, trying to use variety, a single variety, and develop it in the tanks, even in the soil, from the soil, the balance of the soil, the nutrition of the plant, and then in the tank, makes me angry, to be honest, to see people infusing coffee.
Yeah.
You know, taking coffee to put flavors on top of it and then release it to the people. For me, it makes me a little mad, to be honest, because
it discredits all that work you've done.
My work, not my work, all the growers and the producers' work, and also kind of cheats a little bit to the person that drinks, because it should specify this is coffee plus something.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things about coffee, we have discussed with Andres a lot, that is a big of his ideas, is that coffee is so nice because it's just coffee. It's a product, it's a beverage, it's a food that is just coffee. So it's really natural. It's just a seed, has a lot of nutrients, and you just drink the infusion of that seed, and that's it. And then when you see an infused coffee, then that is coffee plus something.
Yeah.
So,
and it's very interesting that we talk about this, And I'm glad it came up because, you know, you see in the filtered coffees right now where they will take an infused coffee and, you know, you've seen it in Colombia where they'll use a less expensive coffee, high production, and no real characteristics, and then they'll infuse it and then they'll sell it in competition with the coffees that you've worked so hard to nurture, from the soil to the fermentation to the picking, processing, that whole transformation. You've created this beautiful beverage that is so special, that has all the nurturing and love to it, and then someone can get a random variety, clean it up so there's no defects, infuse it, and then say it is of the same value.
Yeah, I want to be very honest. And for me now, I'm thinking is like in the cyclist, when the Tour de France and these kind of guys, there is somebody doping himself and the other is just doing the natural way, you know, training and making the effort, overcoming obstacles and being better every time, compared to somebody that just uses a substance to create some advantage over the other. So for me, it's a little bit
It's
like that.
Doping. I'd never thought of coffee as doping, but
not coffee, infused ones.
No, but infused coffee as doping. But it's very interesting because the trend is to do that right now.
Yeah.
So as a producer of coffee, how do you compete?
Well, yeah, it's a struggle. We are trying to understand the market much better every time, and deliver the product and create the service, and our strategy is like transfer as much value as possible, meaning being authentic, we as producers, trying to tell to the industry and to the drinkers, to the clients that finally drink the coffee, who we are and how this coffee was taken care of. And we believe that is an interesting way. We don't know if the clients are interested in that or what, or at least interested in paying for that. But we don't want to be what we are not. We just want to be authentic as much as possible. So
I think that obviously, again, this is a little bit biased, but the relationship I have with you and Andres, and being able to showcase this to the customer and really push the boundaries of how they think and have thought-provoking conversations, I think that that's the best way for you to be able to compete. Because if nobody has these conversations, if we're not able to tell the final customer, you know, what actually happens at a farm level, then I think it's also bad on us that we can't really complain if we're not competitive unless we do these kind of things. That's how I feel. I don't know what you think about that, but
yeah, well, at the end, the good people, the problem of good people is not talking and not saying anything about the things that you don't like in anything, in the market or in a country or whatever scenario you think of. At the end, the market and the people that drink the coffee is the choice, and we try to serve that people, but maybe if the people has misinformation or incomplete information, then it's not their fault either. Yeah. So that job of telling, hey guys, if this is a coffee that you find a flavor that is a little weird, is because it is, you know? Because it's a very flat coffee that is kind of cheap, not
like
very
fake candy sometimes, you know, in the little wrappers.
Yeah. So not very complex coffee, and they just put a flavor there, a coconut or even eucalyptus flavor I've tasted that you say, oh my God, what is this? Then it's because it's something weird going on there. But yeah.
So I'll also challenge you then, and I'm challenging myself with this thought process. Is there a way to get people who are drinking commercial coffee to start to enjoy infused coffee, to hope that they actually go to the pure, high quality coffee that you produce? Is there an opportunity for it to be a gateway, or do you think that it's just detrimental?
No, I'm not sure about that. If it's a gateway or not, I don't see. Probably it is. It creates interest in the people that is just in commercial coffee or that don't care about the coffee they're drinking, and they try something different. And that different is an infused coffee, and then after they research and get interested in the matter, then they find, okay, there is something even better than that, that is equally complex or even more complex, but completely natural coffee. Maybe there is, I'm not sure.
I've been challenging myself because like I'm outspoken in my thoughts and I want to do the best thing by the farm, and you know, I feel like when I'm in Australia, I really want to push that message. But I have also then reflected and said, well, is there a place for it as a gateway or transition? And I'm not quite sure. I think it would be, same way as I think blends could be good if they were marketed in an honest way.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think that's the minimum you should, as a client, as a consumer, ask for, that you're being informed about the way the coffee is produced or the way that they add something to the flavor. And there you can take a decision. At least you say, okay, I will continue with my infused because it's a very more affordable price and it's still a good taste, or definitely I will change to a naturally processed coffee.
So talking about coffee and the way in which you like to produce coffee, what are the things in the industry that you've seen that inspire you with the coffee, and what are the things that are, apart from infused coffee, that is frustrating you?
The thing that inspires me about coffee is, again, the connection.
Mm-hmm.
It connects the whole world. Wherever you go in the world, to the coffee industry or to any place in the world, you find coffee. Mm-hmm. And you can connect to a lot of people about this subject, about this matter. And the interest about this beverage is magical. So that's also because I produce other things. I produce avocados in the farm, a small amount. My production is coffee, but I also have avocados and lemons. And I cannot imagine a contest of people eating avocado and cupping avocado and saying, and you know, when you go to the cupping contest, people screaming and yeah, and the World Barista and the Barista Championships, everybody's like so enthusiastic. And that's the magic of coffee, because you will not imagine that in an avocado way, or a lemon cupping session. That doesn't happen. Why is that? Because coffee has a lot of magic. And when you see around the world, it connects and it like inspires people. You try a coffee that makes you feel something, and then you get, oh my God, what is this? I want to know more. I want to get involved. Blah, blah, blah. It takes you there. And also that's why I feel coffee is like a very good messenger, because it's always sending a message to the people about magic, about, wow, my God, this makes me feel good, I like this. So that's inspiring, and then it's growing worldwide. That interest about specialty is growing worldwide, is increasing. Even here in Colombia, in small towns, you can now find specialty coffee shops.
Yeah.
Which 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it was unthinkable. Now you see these kind of things. Frustrating, I think also like the human greed that is into coffee, because people see somebody that is passionate about the coffee and then is like making money or being successful. And then there's somebody else thinking from outside, how can I be also earning money there, but jumping all these
the steps
and the effort. I see that guy is making a lot of effort taking care of the beverage. I give a fuck, I just want the money. And I jump all the process, try to go there. And so that's kind of frustrating when you find I'm not generalizing.
No, but we've talked about it. Like for me in Australia, there's coffee companies that are just branded, amazing branding and marketing. Like the branding and marketing is amazing. But then they'll buy one bag of your coffee, 35 kilos, and then the rest of their stuff is la merda.
I will be very pissed if I see that.
But that happens a lot, and that's what I compete against because
Yeah.
I'm a purist, you know. Not one of my coffees I don't give the love and tender care to, and that's why I come to the farm so much, and that's why I feel blessed to have that partnership and relationship with you. But I think as a team, we can continue to push the boundaries and rip that curtain away and say, well, actually, that's commercial. This is real specialty. This is real sustainability.
Yeah.
Because we talk about with Andres, you know, how do we put value on your farming practices?
Yeah.
How do we do that? Because I
Well,
constantly
it's great
ponder on
to do the mission, to have the mission of saying, hey guys, this is not real specialty, this is just a facade, and then behind it just commercial coffee using the name of a producer or of a company that produce good coffee. How to give value is the big question, or transfer the value and make the market recognize it and say, okay, we like that, we're valuing that. In Colombia, the experience has been tough because I've seen the last 20 years, we were in our farm, we were completely surrounded by coffee farms. Completely. There were almost no other crop, maybe plantain, but it was like intercrops.
Yeah, like the biodiversity, like you talked
Yeah,
about,
but
with fruits and
I can
avocados.
say I can honestly say it was 100% only coffee farms around. Now we are like 5% coffee farms. So 95% in the last 20 years around my area, which I know like the palm of my hand, was changed from coffee to other things.
Why is that?
Because the value of the coffee is very hard to produce and the value is not recognized by the market. So when you make an average of 20 years economically, the profits are so low and the investment is so high that it has discouraged 95% of my neighbor producers. And in the crisis, because the New York Stock Exchange, the market goes down 2 years and then it kills you. When you're a producer and you see in the industry, the producer gets like less than 7% of the value of the coffee. So it's hard for the producer to continue. And then we have developed from many years the integration and go until the store part. Even though in reality, most of the coffee that we produce, we have to sell it green or not in the roasted or in the stores that we have. But there you see that to transfer value is not easy because sometimes people don't even care. They don't care. You explain, look, we are processing this and producing that and doing this, and they say, I really don't care.
Just
And
give me my coffee.
Give me a coffee that is good, and then you can, if you say, and pay me more for this because I did this and that, they say, that doesn't relate to me that much. Maybe some percentage of the customers they do, but the main amount of customers, they say, I don't care. Probably we are not sending the message right.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's
we
the
are
key.
not good at that because we are good at producing, but we are not good at sending messages.
You are good at sending messages through the cup, like we
Through the
talked
cup,
about,
yeah.
'cause I feel,
Hidden.
I feel the love when I'm there in the warehouse. But I think the marketing and the branding, sending the message that way, like we're in a new age where TikTok, Instagram, all this stuff, YouTube, like there's avenues for you to continue to push your message, and I think in time it
Yeah.
will happen. That's what I'm inspired by. What
Yeah.
I'm inspired by is I think that your message will be translated in time. And that gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah.
Because I always say, when I'm in the warehouse, people say, oh, can I have a coffee like this, with that? And I say, no, the warehouse is like my sacred place. My warehouse is a place where you get to enjoy a coffee the way that Santiago Londono wanted you to have that experience. And not everyone cares, that's
Yeah.
true. But I think that we will inspire the more community who do care, who maybe have been misinformed, and then they will be informed, and that will slowly start to build, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully in that. And I think that's why we always want to be authentic, because I see there's a lot of people sending the message in the coffee industry, trying to transfer that, but a lot of people trying to take opportunity, take advantage of that.
Follow trends
And just repeating the same thing and without soul. So maybe you can be successful, and we together, working together, can be successful in giving like deep content, profound content to the message. Because at the end is really interesting. I think it's really important for the world to give credit and to give importance to the producers, not only of coffee but of many things, like the family producers that are taking care of a land for many years and conserving the soil and not trying to just get the most out of it in 5 years and then leave. As you can see.
This is one of the beautiful things about where your coffee is served right now. I partnered with their sweet potato farmers.
Yeah.
And when they have like harvesting time and cutting some of the, I don't know if they're weeds or whatnot, that actually has CO2 in it. And then when they cut it, they leave it on the soil. And then the CO2 goes and interacts with the soil, and like the soil content then actually helps grow the sweet potatoes and everything like that. And that's what I think is so beautiful when I speak to them. They say, oh, you know, when you're in Colombia, what's the soil like? Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
They're like, what's the soil like? Tell me about the soil, like. And nobody really normally cares about that stuff.
Nothing.
But when I talk about you talk about, my soil is like this, and we preserve it like this, and that's what then gets transferred into the coffee.
Yeah, of course.
One of the beautiful things I think about the coffee farms that you and Andres have is the way in which it's like, you know, the misty forest adds the shade for the coffee trees, and all the ways in which, you know, the natural wildlife, the birds, everything interacts, and everything has like its own role in that ecosystem.
Yeah.
How have you found that you've been able to preserve that so well?
We've been certified for many years in rainforest, and as I was telling you, when I started 20 years ago at the farm level, my interest from my soul was that. So I started to make closed cycles, because also we produce the coffee and we transform it until it's in parchment. So in the transformation, we also try to make it as environmentally friendly as possible. But yeah, definitely that relationship with the soil, which was not so thinkable before this experience, is really interesting, because that's another complete world that need to be in balance, complete balance, and need to be in peace. Otherwise, you start to see the problems in the crop. The crop will tell you, hey,
the soil is bad.
Yeah, the soil is in war. There is conflict there. You need to do something. You need to take care of that. So it's like you're having billions and billions of microorganisms at your, not at your command, but at your care. You're taking care of those also. It's like your children also. And then when you see a tree, then as we were going to the farm, and what do you see from the panoramic? So you start to see all the behavior of every single tree in your farm, and that's really, really cool. and then you see the healthiness, the behavior. So now is May, next month comes the summertime, so this leaf is in this state, and the tree has grown this far, and now there is some blossoming, and then there is this shade, and then you start to connect so many dots. That's really interesting. This interaction is something beautiful that we do every day. Even when you go to the farm and in 10 seconds, you know if something's wrong or something's good.
Yeah.
Because you just right away notice some interaction that is going on. So when I did my master degree 15 years ago, 14 years ago, I developed a work about resilience, adaptation for the climate change in the crop. And back then, one of the things is redundancy that you need to apply. Because normally when you have a crop, you try to be very efficient, so you just have one thing of every single thing plays ecosystemic service. Every tree you plant, every creek you have, every animal that goes there, every bird that comes, every reptile, snakes, every single element is playing a role. So you need to go for redundancy, meaning if this tree dies, then I don't have any other tree providing that ecosystemic service. So you need to have one tree there and the other here, because maybe that one falls down, and then this one is redundant, it's doing also the same. The other thing is interconnectedness. So we have the landscape, then in the upper part we have the forest, the lower part is the main river, the main creek, and then we connect with biocorridors from the upper to the lower part. So there's also water coming down, and also there are animals coming down and up. So in the night they come down and drink water or do whatever, and they go up. So if you only have crop, they get scared and they don't flow. But if you connect with corridors, they flow. So your ecosystem is active, is not blocked. And sometimes that's why we planted avocado also and lemon in the farm, because in some plots of the farm, coffee doesn't behave well. And also, when you plant a different crop here, coffee here, then the plaques will not grow like crazy. There is like a barrier, like a
natural
change.
corridors.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting because you know Robert Parra, and I worked with Rob. So when people are drinking this coffee, it actually goes towards me planting trees with Rob and his foundation in Pereira. And so we are trying to plant more trees to have the natural highways that were blocked from residential infrastructure or livestock farms or whatever it was. We're trying to reconnect those natural highways to then have the birds, the animals, the creek all come and have that ecosystem working again.
More stable,
More stable.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool that you do that on the farm.
Yeah.
And how many people really know that? I'm sorry, but for the people in Australia who are drinking this coffee, I don't know too many people who would actually know that that's what goes on the farm. I know before I got involved in the farm, I wasn't fully aware of that. And I think that's where these podcasts are so educational and can get people to think, wow, there's a purpose behind why you have trees here, why you're doing lemons, why you're doing avocados, and it's that whole biodiversity. And I think that adds a lot of value to you and your story as well.
Yeah, because also, well, from my soul, I feel it, and also I see, I received this farm 80 years ago, like from my family tradition, but now 100 years in the future, it will be lovely if somebody in my family will be taking care of the same soil, and the soil is still balanced, still ecosystemically working and producing whatever.
I think that's beautiful.
So it's also trying to appreciate that you received something and then you also will deliver it to the future.
It's like in the life, nothing is, you don't own anything.
Yeah, nothing.
You're just a keeper.
Yeah, you just keep it.
And that's what everyone says, you know, oh, this is my coffee, or they take ownership of things. Like, and I get why people say it, and sometimes I accidentally say it, but in the end, it's not really my coffee. That's why I say it's Willie's beans, not Jayson's beans. And I have the photo in my warehouse where there's a burro. I showed you the burro in the suit drinking the coffee, and I say, yeah, I'm that donkey who just gets to tell the story. I feel like that's my role in this whole relationship. But how do you see, you know, we did some experiments yesterday, and I don't want to talk too much about it right now, but how do you see things progressing with this coffee, and what do you want to bring to Australia and the coffee community there moving forward?
I think for us it's really, really important, and it gives a lot of meaning to what we do. So we send the message forward, and also you bring the message back to say, guys, because you know, in the world people are very different. But you say Australian people, or my customers and my people likes this, don't care about this, so on and so forth. So when you come and give us the feedback of what is working, what is appreciated, and what is not, is really, really important for us, and we should continue that. So I see in the future, more than developing the craziest process, trendy, new, whatever name, fancy, very strange name we can create, because also we can at the farm, the tanks and ferment and blah, 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 is the future that I see is more a relationship future, is more a human future, what people like and what people understand. Because what I don't like is like you just focus on a tank, fermentation tank, to create something very weird so somebody can pay you high prices and deliver there, and then you don't care anymore if they you just convince somebody that was cool and that was strange and that was whatever. I see it more like a big conversation, a big relationship, a big partnership, a big thought to be shared. Yeah, that's the way.
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and thank you again for having me here and taking the time. We have some exciting things that we're going to be working on over the next few weeks here in Colombia, and I'm going to be bringing that back to you in Australia. I hope you enjoyed another episode of Willie's Beans. Thank you, Santi.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, Jayson.
See you next time.